the start of a video will never not be awkward for me. Yeah. Anyway, hey guys, thanks for tuning in to my channel. Bit of a gloomy day today in London. We probably had summer for all of 10 days. Shame, but it was a good summer. I have just come back from a birthday trip in Scotland and it was great. Anyone whose name starts with Lil,
These guys are powerful. Little Wayne.
Lil Wayne was the last one for me. Anyone now in 2020, your name starts with Lil. Don't even. We made it. We're here. Good trip on the train. Scotland vibes, really happy. So we have just arrived in Scotland. I have to go and buy a jersey because I am so cold and I think I underestimated what the weather would be. And so I am freezing, so I'm just gonna go buy some jerseys because wow, I don't know what I was thinking. It's super cold. Almost at the top. Few more steps. Few more steps to go. And we're going to reach the top of Arthur's Seat. Exciting times. Hey! Homeboy's happy now that he's descending. But listen, honesty hour. I'd be lying if I said that Scotland was top 10 of my bucket list or even top 20. But after having done some research, because I'm someone, if I'm traveling, I need to do some outdoor stuff. It needs to be outdoorsy, you know, there needs to be adventure. And when I researched and I saw that there is a lot of greenery, there's a lot of, you know, hiking that can happen. Well, one mainly, but I mean, you know, and then I was like, all right, hurry, let's go. So it was really great. Like I said, not my initial destination. You know, when you start traveling, you think of all the cliche areas, Italy, France, you know. So it was great though. It was really great. The plan was to visit home in South Africa. Hence, I was left with all this free time to plan the trip. The plan was that I was supposed to be home right now visiting family, but like I said, it was all good. The birthday weekend was still phenomenal and we had a great time in Scotyyyy. And I really think we try to, make the best of the situation right now with the pandemic. Traveling during this time is really, really, really weird. But it was great. Like I said, it was great. I did play myself because the weather was, I don't know what I was thinking. Like, I knew what the weather was, but I still brought crop tops and stuff. So initially the plan was to vlog the Scotland birthday weekend, like fun times, living our best lives, thriving, and it was fun. And I think in my attempts to vlog Scotland, I was always made aware, or I was always noticing that, look man, nothing is normal, and it's just something that kept like coming up, for me throughout the whole trip. It was so obvious that post-pandemic things are not normal. Is this the new normal? From being in an Uber, there were 6 of us, and being in an Uber where there's 6 people and we could have just easily taken an Uber XL, but now we have to split the Uber because of social distancing, and for me what was really like an eye-opener was the fact that a lot of restaurants actually never reopened post-lockdown, which is quite scary. And a friend of mine did say a few months ago that we don't realize the full extent until you get outside and you see that things are not normal. So I also took a few vlog clips while we were on the train, and it was a good time and we had fun times. And someone who is very near and dear to me pointed out that I took off my mask in the train, which is something that obviously you're not supposed to do if you're taking the train. You're supposed to have your mask on at all times, and I took off my mask for a couple of minutes in order to chat, and a couple of us did, like a few of us did, and then I thought to myself, I can't put the video on like a platform like YouTube, because technically I'm not supposed to take off my mask. And so and sure, hats off to people that have to wear these masks all day, because we complain about how we have to wear them in the train, we take them off and things like that, but that's wrong. That's wrong of us to do that. And so I opted not to upload parts of that video because we are obviously not on the right side of the law. Can I say the law? But yeah, obviously we are breaking the rules. And so I decided to just talk about how even while traveling post lockdown, there's just this, it's almost like there's a background song. I don't even know how else to describe it. It's almost like there's a background song humming in the background of every scene, like a Kid Cudi sort of hum, like just know what this about. Like this hum in the background, or I don't know if it's subconsciously, where we like, things aren't normal, things aren't normal, things aren't normal. And it creates this, like, I don't know how best to describe it. I was listening to a podcast called Modern Wisdom, and the guest was talking about how there's stress, there's the obvious stress of a situation. Let's say, for example, your house is on fire, you can see your house is on fire, so you solve the problem, you call the fire brigade, and then that's the obvious stress of a situation. But when it comes to like the pandemic and just how we've been trying to function in the midst of that, it's almost like it's not your obvious like overwhelming stress that's in front of you. It's almost like an ambient anxiety where it's there throughout the day, but because it's not the obvious things that you can just like pinpoint and solve, it stays there. And if you don't do anything to address it, it sort of lingers in the back of your mind, where you're like, oh, there's this, oh, that I need to worry about this, oh, my mask, oh, but what am I going to do about my job, oh, meetings, oh, working from home, so you constantly have this thing in the back of your mind where you're like, things are not normal, things are not okay. And I think I've seen this play out for me in my life and what's been happening recently. And I suppose this is a good time to sort of also just talk about my not so great moments and my not so great experiences about being in London. And I think that for me, the experience is almost elevated or heightened because I moved here and then, you know, lockdown happened. So it was like the stress of being in a new country, in a pandemic, starting a new job, away from home. Woo! It was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. And so, apart from the obvious homesickness, a couple of weeks ago, I started to feel tired. Like, not your obvious post-workout tiredness, like, ooh, what a great session, feeling strong, you know? Or the tiredness of a long day where you're like, yo, so many deadlines, I'm so tired, you know? It was like fatigue. Like, I just felt tired, and even whether or not I worked out that day, I would feel exhausted and I felt fatigued and my mood was low and I felt so groggy, and it just felt like I had brain fog. Like, I couldn't remember the smallest details, or I just, like, I couldn't perform the smallest tasks. And I think when it started to really become tricky, or when I started to really think, okay, maybe I need to get, you know, maybe something needs to happen, is because, you know, I was still eating well and I was still exercising, but it wasn't helping, you know. And I tried to, you know, make sure that I'm drinking water, all the basics that, you know, I often like say, you know, I always tell people to do, like, are you eating right? Are you drinking water? Are you getting enough sleep? You know, the normal sort of like things that you should be doing, I was doing. And on top of that, I was also having irregular periods, right? And for me, it wasn't a shock, because when I was in university, I also like had irregular periods, especially when I was stressed. Like, it's a known thing that, you know, for females, sometimes you can have irregular periods if you're going through a stressful time. But then I thought, okay, you know what, on top of this, there's all these symptoms, maybe I should chat to a doctor or something must happen. So had some tests done by the nurses, and the doctor then phoned me. So because, you know, pandemic, the doctor gives you a call to, you know, chat to you telephonically, which I think is quite cool. Yes, we had a great chat, and it turns out that after, you know, interpreting the blood tests and things like that, I was exhibiting the symptoms of a vitamin D deficiency, which obviously isn't surprising to her as a doctor, because she's like, first of all, your accent, you're not from here. Where are you from? I was like, I'm from Southie. She was like, good shot. There's not much sun here. There was sun there. And so you need to start taking vitamin D supplements. And I was like, oh, okay. Which is like I said, it's not mind blowing. A lot of people did tell me when I moved to the UK that you probably should consider, you know, taking a vitamin D supplement and things like that. Another thing that I got from my conversation with the doctor, apart from her saying, obviously she had never met me, it was all telephonic, apart from her saying, are you eating well and exercising? I was like, do you know who I am? Have you met me?
Don't you know who I am? I'm John C.
But I couldn't say that on the phone. I was like, of course, doctor, I eat well and I exercise. But like I said, what I got from the conversation with the doctor was that, firstly, we all carry stress differently. Another thing that made the symptoms even worse was the fact that, you know, in the backdrop of me living in a new country, in a pandemic, you know, working from home, in a very stressful job, you know, there's all these things and they add up, and so you have all these little anxieties that are like in the back of your mind, and you know, eventually it catches up with you. So anyway, what I got from the conversation with the doctor was this: we all carry stress differently. Some people, you know, they feel it on the shoulders, some people feel it in their lower back, some people feel it in the jaw, and the stress factors are not always obvious, or I think they might be. We just think this is a normal way of life. Like, it's normal for me to be stressed out about a million little things, you know, throughout the day. But I think that is not normal. For me, what it turns out that the issue was is that all these little things, they build up over time. And so when you're exercising and eating well, it's a coping mechanism. Like, you're doing fine, you're eating well, you're exercising, you're just managing the symptoms. But sometimes when the stress is excessive, that's when it's like, okay, even your own coping mechanisms won't help you in this instance. So like I said, all these little things that are stressing us, that are not the obvious stress, like your house being on fire, but it's more like the ambient stress that is in the background and, you know, is always there, and you sort of live with it, and you're managing just fine in the midst of the stress. Those are the things that, for me, I needed to address, you know. And so the best way I can explain it, and my grandma, she used to tell stories. She used to drive a point home by telling a story. So she used to talk about how if you put a frog in boiling water, it's immediately going to jump out because the water's boiling, right? But if you put a frog in a kettle and you let that water boil slowly, eventually the frog won't necessarily jump out, but it'll allow itself to boil to death, because, you know, by the time it wants to jump out of the water, it's too late. And for me, that's the best way that I can explain, you know, the ambient stress, where the water you're in is slowly boiling, like life is getting real, but you keep at it, you go on, you know, you just, you know, go along with it until it becomes too late to jump out of the hot situation. So I think what I've learned from this whole thing and this whole experience, like I said, this is going to be me talking about my not so great moments here in the UK, but I'm aware that the situation is unique in the sense that I'm living here in the middle of a pandemic. But I'm glad that I had this whole encounter, because it's reminded me and it's shown me that you can have your coping mechanisms, and they can, you know, they can help you get by day to day. However, sometimes it's not enough, and sometimes you're not supposed to just deal with the symptoms, but you're supposed to deal with the actual root cause of what's causing you to be so stressed and overwhelmed and anxious all the time, right? And I'm glad, you know, I had this conversation with the doctor, because the biggest thing is, yes, you know, do what you need to do, you know, drink water, exercise, moisturize, love yourself, exfoliate, blah blah blah, but seek help if you feel like your anxiety is getting out of hand, or, you know, don't trivialize your own experience because you're not outwardly sick, or you're not coughing or sneezing so you think you're not sick. You know, seek help, journal, meditate, and if you're struggling with anxiety, for me the biggest thing is, what is in my control? Obviously a lot a lot is not in my control, and so if I worry about the future too much, then I'll get anxious. So it's literally just about taking it one day at a time and saying to myself, what can I do today? What is in my control today? And just making sure that you don't have the background noise, the ambient anxiety in the background of your life playing out the whole time, because eventually it just becomes too much. And so I write a lot now. I write down my thoughts. That helps me because I've left my thoughts on paper. They're not in my mind. But yeah, guys, bit of a different video. But like I said, I just wanted to just have like an honest chat about what I've had to experience living in the UK by myself. I hope that has shed some light on the not so great moments about living in the UK. But like I said, I am in a very unique situation where I think a lot has happened in 2020, and so probably if anybody else, has encountered something, or the not so great parts, they will probably have a different story, because 2020 as a whole must just be wrapped up and thrown in the bin. So yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching, for tuning in. Let me know if you have questions, and I will do an update on how I'm doing. I'm not as tired anymore. I feel refreshed. I'm taking my vitamin D supplements. I'm more intentional about my self-care and trying to enjoy what is left of the sun, but there's no sun. But thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If any of this resonated with you, or someone that struggled with stress and anxiety and things like that, share the video with them. Tell them that it's not normal to always worry about stuff, and yeah, like, subscribe, the usual, how it is. Cheers, guys.